Cockroach. Dash. Dash. What the fuck? Blurted Suna as the door to the Miya's house was opened up for him. Don't ask, were Osamu's words as he pulled open said door, revealing his now quite grayish hair. Suna eyed him from head to toe, raising an eyebrow and ignoring Taylor Swift's song You Belong With Me playing in the background. Or maybe he didn't. His phone was within reach. Tsumu got rejected, Osamu explained as a matter of fact, and if his face didn't reveal how done he was with his brother, then his tone definitely did. Shut your trap, Samu. A weepy voice blared from somewhere upstairs and Suna bent his upper body with his hands still in his jacket pockets just as disgustingly as he does in their volleyball games just to look past Osamu. You. And what does that have to do with you? Suna lifted a brow. His torso was still bent, his questioning yet fascinated gaze back on Osamu's hair. Yummy. Gosh, Suna had to thank whoever dumped Miya Atsumu, he really made his twin brother even hotter. If he hadn't already fallen for those strong arms, that unimpressed face, and that bored voice months ago, then shit, Suna would be now at the latest. Osamu's grey hair paired with his deep sapphire eyes was a dangerous combination. Desirable. Foo. Okay, Suna was losing it. He was undeniably turned on because Osamu did things to him that he either only had wet dreams about or pictured when he was all by himself taking a hot shower. He seriously had to pull himself together. The boy didn't even know about the big fat crush Rin had on his best friend and he didn't want to scare him away. 𝒂𝒄𝒅𝒊𝒕𝒔 mistook Tsumu for me. Osamu sighed exasperatedly. Now he's being petty. And that's why you let him dye your hair? Suna's eyebrow was still raised, his phone unlocked. Osamu shook his head and stepped aside to let Rin inside. He scowled at him as Rin snapped a picture of Osamu before entering the house. Suna stopped when he was face to face with the handsome boy. It's not just my hair, Hot Samu began. Tsumu's blonde now. Rin gasped, his eyes were wide open. He's what? Osamu is kidding him, right? Ya heard me. Oh, holy shit. Show me. Dash. Dash. In his entire life, Suna Rintaro has cried exactly twice. The first time was when he was 5 and found out after a week of impatient waiting that all the pictures he took with his single-use camera were useless. There goes the evidence of his 2-year-old sister having her face full of powdered sugar because she dove her head full force into her birthday cake and Rintaro firmly claimed afterward it was cocaine. The second time was when he was 15 and entered the Miya's house, spotting Atsumu in the twins' shared bedroom with his now bleached hair. Which was today. These pictures will certainly not be useless. Of every color you could have chosen, you went for piss blonde. It's fire blonde, you shithead. And you know what? Fuck you, Atsumu bitched, running his fingers through his hair to push it to the side. It looks good on me. Fire blonde my ass. Rin wiped the tears that trickled up in the corners of his eyes. The light on his phone flashed as he snapped a picture of Atsumu, causing the latter to scowl. You look like a fucking moron, Tsumu. Well, better look like a moron than be one, asshole. With his arms crossed, Osamu leaned against the doorframe and cocked a brow as he watched the two of them bicker. He knew this would be more fun once Rin showed up. Osamu walked past them with a nasty grin chiseled onto his face and settled onto his bed, leaning back and propping himself up on his palms as he did so. Then he joined in with his best friend because apparently, it was Atsumu bullying ours. And all of this just because of 𝒂𝒄𝒅? He teased his brother and whoa, if looks could kill. I'm not doing this cuz of Omi. Samu, what the fuck? Atsumu bit back, venom dripping in his voice. Sure thing, Suna replied half bored and slumped down next to Osamu. Atsumu narrowed his eyes as he saw Suna's cheeks flush slightly, bumping his and Osamu's knees together as he joined him on the bottom bunk. Atsumu decided to ignore it. Even though he might wish, my world doesn't revolve around Omi, okay? Thank you very much. So why did it bug you so much when Omi thought you were me? Suna's eyebrows shot up, almost meeting his hairline, and glanced back and forth between the twins. Why, though? What happened? Osamu chuckled. When Tsumu came home from youth camp he was downright pissed cuz our beloved 𝒂𝒄𝒅𝒊𝒕𔔄 must have said something like, Osamu pulled the collar of his shirt over his nose to cover half his face and lowered his voice an octave, trying not to let his accent seep through. Then, Miya, wasn't your brother invited? Suna snorted as Osamu mimicked 𝒂𝒄𝒅. Let me guess, by your brother he actually meant Atsumu? Osamu laughed. Can you imagine, Rin? He thought he was talking to me and that's why Atsumu is pissed. Fuck you, Samu. Atsumu grumbled. He had every reason to be mad. No one confuses the one and only Miya Atsumu with his brother. Well, at least not anymore. He continued, I don't care if he thought I was your whatever. Atsumu caught Rin's mischievous gaze darting back to him. Gosh, he hated, really loathed that look of him. He knew Rin was up to something stupid and no one Kita is there to stop him. Suna clicked his tongue and tilted his head, that silly grin still plastered on his dumbass face. But he likes you back, Atsumu. Why else would he have asked about you? Suna's words were like a punch in Atsumu's gut. 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 has ignored him all week. There is no chance he would like him even the slightest bit. Atsumu wasn't even sure if 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 liked anyone at all. He did probably not even like himself. No, actually, Atsumu is pretty sure about that. At least, Atsumu didn't like him. Or that's what he kept telling himself, because it's easier to pretend to dislike those who didn't show the tiniest bit of interest in Atsumu either, right? If you don't like me, I don't like you too. Easy, isn't it? But then, why did Kyumi even bother to check up on him? Fuck you, Rin. Cause he obviously wants to hit the passes of the best setter in the whole wide world, and Samu would be definitely the wrong person to go to. Atsumu glared at his brother and Rin, his mouth twisting into a pout. And why do ya even think I'd ever like him? I have taste. Suna glanced up at Atsumu's pissed blonde hair, keeping a straight, bored face. Then his gaze shifted back into his golden eyes, shooting him an indifferent and yet judgmental look. Sure, he repeated, absolutely not meaning it. Yeah, know what? Atsumu scowled at his best friend and, just on principle, at his twin, too. Fuck you. Both of you. Hey. Osamu groused. Don't gimme that. I bleached my damn hair for ya. Bleach your ass. Atsumu threw his hands up in the air. Maybe you'll get rid of Rin crawling up that far. Gosh, he's so whipped, Suna whispered, leaning into Osamu's side. Osamu scowled at his brother but nodded and whispered back. He's barely been there a week and he can't get enough of that city boy. I can hear you. Good. Osamu bitched back, causing Suna to chuckle. Atsumu didn't know what the hell he did in life to be stuck here with these two. He deserved better. Clearly. How can he help it if 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 Kyumi behaved so indifferently towards him? Everyone noticed Atsumu. Everyone wanted to play together with him. Everyone wanted to be as close to him as possible. Everyone except 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅. And that stung a little bit, because not only did Kyumi not pay any attention to him for the whole week, no. When he did, he mistook him for his brother, for Osamu, when it was, in fact, Atsumu on whom he was supposed to be focused on. He wouldn't have cared. People always approached Osamu first, because he was calmer, more composed, more serene. Not necessarily easier to come close to, but the inhibitions were definitely lower. Atsumu was used to it. Really. But in the end, they always fell for Atsumu, always fancied him, did everything they could to win him over. Everyone. All of them, without exception. So why not 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 Kyumi too? It stung. Fuck him, Atsumu grumbled under his breath, because yes, maybe he was a little bit petty. So, he kept telling himself that, I'm not doing anything for anyone. Except he did this for someone. For someone with jet black curls and stupid twin moles just above his right eyebrow. Atsumu peered into the mirror and swept his bangs aside. He looked good. He knew that. And blonde suited him. Screw Sunarin, Atsumu knew he was even more attractive now. And no, he didn't do it because of Kyumi. No. Absolutely not. But when they meet again, he hoped to find Kyumi's jaw hitting the ground and for him to regret ever mistaking Atsumu for Osamu. He was petty. Just a little bit. Not because of Kyumi. Why did you do it, though? Suna asked as he turned to Osamu, raising one brow. If Atsumu chooses blonde for himself, you could have just stayed brown. There would still be a difference. Cause he's whipped, Atsumu replied bitterly, hating how his brother and Rin had been dancing around each other for months. Suna's head snapped up to him, his expression confused at the choice of words Atsumu had just uttered. His plan to tease his twin backfired, though, because Osamu might be calm and collected, but he was at least as smug and playful as his brother. He just didn't show it as much as Atsumu, which made him even less predictable. Atsumu wanted to fluster him? Please. He needed more than that. I dunno, Osamu smirked, Rin's gaze now back on him. Gosh, they were smitten. Atsumu wanted to puke. Atsumu mentioned you'd simp for men with white hair. It was a snarky comment from Atsumu. Dye your hair white like Gojo Satoru or that Kakashi dude that always pops up on Sunarin's Twitter timeline and maybe he'll give you his full attention. The fact that Osamu just shrugged his shoulders in a bored way and replied with a simple okay had surprised even him a little. But then again he looked at them and noticed how infatuated they were with each other. Gross. Why don't you make the first move? Atsumu chided him. Well, and here his brother was now. Did Atsumu regret it? Hell yes. In all honesty? No. Of course, he wanted his brother to be happy and Sunarin was perfect for him. He felt that. Atsumu might pretend to be incredibly annoyed with them, sometimes he kind of was, but deep down he's glad Osamu has found someone in Suna who loves him unconditionally. It's enviable. They would steal the world for each other and do anything in their power to make the other happy. Any fool could see that. while 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 didn't even look at him with his ass. I don't simp for men with white hair. Sure thing, Sunarin. Yeah, timeline tells a different story. Atsumu smirks but the asshole just quirks a brow. I mean, duh, they're hot. Yeah. Atsumu wished there would be something against Suna to break him but he was just like his brother. Unbothered, unfazed, indifferent. Huh. Maybe that's why they were such a good match. Osamu chuckled. I was just too chicken to go for a full white. Osamu grinned, shaking his hair and fixing his bangs. Ya still like it? Suna blinked a few times and Atsumu groaned, spotting the blush sitting high on his cheeks. He can't believe they're not a thing yet. Frustrated, Atsumu was marching out of their shared room, grumbling an annoyed "spare me," before snapping the door shut behind him and leaving them alone. Suna stared at Osamu. They were eyeing each other up and down. Yeah, Rin thought and smiled. Because of course, he liked it. A lot even. Dash. Triumph ensued when Atsumu and Kayumi met again at youth camp, second year. He noticed 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅's eyes widen as he entered the gym and the first thing his gaze fell upon was not the volleyball cart or the net, no. It was Atsumu whom Kayumi's dark eyes captured. Atsumu, from whom he could not break away. Finally. Second year of training camp was definitely more fun than the first year. Atsumu met Kageyama Tobio and somehow took a liking to the boy. Because he bluntly provoked 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 until his cousin Komori intervened? Maybe. At first, Atsumu had seen him as a threat. He was pissed because why was 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 paying more attention to the baby boy than to him? But Atsumu quickly realized that Kageyama was at least as blunt as the prickly spiker, just in a different way. Which meant, no threat at all. Kageyama wasn't the cool and collected guy that Atsumu had first seen in him. He wasn't a badass like the blonde setter, no, not that anyone would agree that Atsumu was. But that's a different story. To his relief he quickly realized Kageyama was nothing but a goody two-shoes, so, he told him exactly that, annoying the latter to the maximum. It was fun. A little bit. Messing with the new kid just because he could. One reason why this slipped past his lips was perhaps that he wanted to take a little bit of revenge for Kayumi. For the fact that Kageyama irritated him when he called him being average, which was kind of funny, not gonna lie. Atsumu would have loved to witness this and see Kayumi's baffled face. It's a shame he wasn't there. But he would never tell anyone that he would ever avenge 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 Kayumi. This reason remained locked in a box deep inside his heart because Atsumu was a badass. He did nothing for anyone. Right? So, the week passed by. Snarky comments here and there. Lingering glances from obsidian eyes that Atsumu secretly craved so much. 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 was always watching, always observing, always sneaking glances when he thought Atsumu wouldn't notice. But the setter did. Every single time. Because Atsumu was watching just as much, weighing his odds, waiting for 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 to do something. Of course, he felt Kayumi's eyes on him when he gave Tobio-kun a high five. Noticed the pouty mouth when Atsumu put his palm on Hoshiumi's shoulder to praise him and the murderous look he shot the blonde when the latter semi-playfully wrapped Motoa, Kayumi's own fucking cousin, in an arm lock for receiving his serve with ease. That little devil. How dare he? Motoa requested afterward to their coach to stop playing against Atsumu, threatened by both the blonde and 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅. Isn't 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 your cousin, Komori? And that, coach, is exactly why I fear him so much. But what has this to do with me? Komori didn't dare to speak further, feeling 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅's stare drilling into his back. He just flinched, eyes wide open, and expressed a helpless please as if a gun was pointed at his skull. Oh, if their coach only knew. It was frustrating that once again Atsumu spent another week around Kayumi without even exchanging a single word. And it's not like Atsumu hasn't tried. Really. How many times did he throw him a smile, praising him that Omi, your spikes are insane. But all he got was an indifferent look on 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅's face and the sight of a hot back that Atsumu wanted to kick his foot into. Black curls he wanted to grip tightly. A round ass that he wanted to squeeze. Ugh. So fucking annoying. But hey, always look at the bright side of life. At least this time he wasn't mistaken for Osamu and no, don't you dare say he dyed his hair because of Kayumi. He did not. Fuck off. So when Atsumu packed his things because it was time for them to leave once again, he was only a tiny bit moping. Taylor Swift's song Trouble was all set in his playlist, ready to be played on repeat on his train ride back to Hyogo. Only then did Atsumu notice one knee pad that Hoshiumi must have forgotten in their shared room and figured the loud, quick, shortening footsteps belonged to the small natural, barging in to collect it. Figured you missed this one, Kokun. Cockroach. Atsumu's head whipped around faster than Daichi ever had the chance to realize he was going to die against Shiratorizawa. Oh, the fuck are you calling a cockroach, bitch? For fuck's sake, not you, Miya. There's 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 Kayumi. Yeah, correct. The 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 Kayumi stood in Atsumu's doorway with a heaving chest, clawing at the door frame and catching his breath. He looked panicked and stressed and oh my fucking god, 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅𝒊𝒕𝒔 is actually talking to me. There's a cockroach in my room. Atsumu blinked at least a million times before he was able to comprehend what the pretty boy wanted from him. Instead of considering his words, Atsumu rather lost himself in those red cheeks and the little beads of sweat that emerged at Kayumi's temple. The twin moles above his eyebrow and, wait what? Hold on a damn minute. There's a, what? I need please, 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 was still panting. You need to get rid of it for me. Get rid of a cockroach? Yes. Why is there even? Mia. Please. Now. Okay, so apparently 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 was just a little bit pushy. However, that got Atsumu to stand up from his crouched position and squeeze past Kayumi. His room was at the other end of the hallway and Atsumu noticed that his own room was the only one with an opened door. Annoyance settled in as he realized it was just a coincidence that Kayumi had ended up approaching him. Fucking cockroach my ass, Atsumu muttered as he entered 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 and Komori's room and indeed found a cute, and disgusting, little cockroach tucked between Komori's socks. I was packing Motoya's stuff because he's, God knows where to say goodbye to everyone in this damn camp, and as soon as I pick up his belongings I have to deal with the cause of the world's death. It's just a cockroach, Omi, stop being so dramatic. Just a cockroach. Kayumi mocked, then laughed almost hysterically. Are you fucking insane, Mia? Oh my god, we need to blow this place up. 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 fished a lighter out of the pocket of his ugly yellow tracksuit jacket and pointed to his gym bag. There's a spray bottle in there that's flammable. Quick. Bring it to me. Omi, we're not going to set anything on fire in here. But. No. Atsumu stared at 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 with a horrified look, noting his lack of humor. Geez, these damn city boys were crazy. Gosh, I can't wait to go back home to Hyogo. Are you homesick, Mia? 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 squinted his eyes. You're a high school student and you're homesick? How weak. Says the one who is scared of a damn cockroach. Atsumu yelled back. He turned away from 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 before his hands accidentally strangled him and noticed the cockroach was moving. Hey look, Omi. It's crawling inside Motoya's shirt. When Atsumu turned back to him, however, he realized 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 was no longer standing next to him, but behind him. He must have jumped from the spot as he witnessed the same, his arms raised protectively in front of his face. Atsumu frowned. Isn't that a bit of an overreaction? It's a cockroach, Mia. There is no such thing as overreaction when it comes to bugs. Atsumu sighed, then chuckled a little. Alright, no need to panic, Omi. Atsumu casually propped himself against the doorframe and leaned into the room. Samu's a messy eater, so I'm kind of used to cleaning up the little critters. Tell him he's disgusting. Atsumu laughed. Oh, I will. He examined the room and tried to figure out what he could use to get rid of the bug so he could play hero for 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅. His heart beat a little harder at the thought of being the knight in shining armor. Atsumu was curious to see what his reward would be. Probably a kick in the ass, from what he guessed 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 would say. At that thought, Atsumu grimaced and wondered what he was even doing here. 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 was a prickly asshole who probably wouldn't even thank him. Atsumu had no reason to act nice to him. When he turned to Kayumi, hell was already glaring at him. Gimme your shoe. 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒅 contorted his face in disgust. No. Use your own shoe. Do ya want me to get rid of the cockroach or not? 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒅 glared at him and pondered for a few seconds. Then he scowled at his cousin's things and grumbled, use Motoya's shoe. Fair point. Komori-kun's shoe it is. Atsumu picked it up and stepped closer to the cockroach. Kayumi whimpered behind him and made himself small while Atsumu lashed out. When Atsumu smacked it with Komori's shoe and a loud crack sound filled the room, 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒅 rushed about 50 meters away from him and a shudder of disgust swept through Atsumu. Then he laughed. Okay, that was gross, but kind of funny. He lifted Motoya's shoe and flipped the sole to his face. Then he turned to Kayumi and waved the shoe back and forth. Look Omi. I got it. Mia, if you don't burn that shoe right now I'm going to blow up the whole place, including you. I told you nothing gets set on fire here. Now come back, the cockroach is dead. Your room is safe to enter. Throw the shoe out the window. Omi, it's Motoya's shoe. Immediately. I will not throw shoes out of windows. As Kayumi marched toward Atsumu with frantic steps, the setter feared for his life for several endless seconds. He flinched as 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒅 snatched the shoe from his hand, then continued to storm toward the window, tearing it open and throwing Komori's shoe out the window as far as he could. Atsumu blinked at him in shock. That. How is he? 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒅 caught his breath for a second, then stomped over to his stuff and ripped open the zipper on his bag. In the meantime, Atsumu rushed to the window and propped himself against the ledge, trying to locate Komori's shoe. No chance. It was gone. Geez, Omi-kun. You do realize Komori won't exactly like this? 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒅 sprayed the room. The shoe was contaminated. It had to be removed. Atsumu spun around and coughed as 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 sprayed him as well. Then he flailed his hands to shoo him away. Next time I'll just take your shoe. That would make the whole thing even funnier. If you do that, I'll throw you out that fucking window as 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅's frown deepened. What the hell are you doing? Checking how high the drop is and see if it's worth it. Miya. 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 scowled at him. Shut the fuck up. Too bad there won't be a next time, eh? Kyuumi's frown deepened, his gaze not averted from Atsumu's eyes. A tinge of pink shot into 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅's cheeks, gracing what was already a beautiful face. His lips gleamed, pout slowly emerging. Now I finally don't have to put up with you anymore. Atsumu snorted and crossed his arms in front of his chest. Sure Omi-kun. Cause you hated my presence so much. The muscles at 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅's throat clenched and unclenched. He swallowed hard. Yeah. There's no way this would go unnoticed by Atsumu. Believe it or not, there are people who are blessed when you keep your mouth shut. Atsumu hummed, his eyelids half dropping, the corner of his mouth curling into a smirk. He raised his index finger and tapped 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅's chest, drawing circles over the ugly yellow fabric of his track jacket as he spoke. Rude, Omi. Shouldn't you be thanking me? I saved your life and all. Saved my ass, 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 started sarcastically. That one too, yeah, Atsumu interrupted him, smirk widening. 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅's blush deepened, his eyes widening for a split second as something unreadable for Atsumu pervaded them. He batted Atsumu's hand from his chest but it didn't do much good. Just to annoy him, Atsumu raised his other one and was about to touch Kyuumi when the spiker grabbed his wrist and squeezed it hard. Oh fuck, Atsumu's knees buckled. I think I deserve a reward, Omi-kun, Atsumu said nonchalantly to ignore the fluttering in his stomach. 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 huffed. For being so annoying? For saving you. Anyone else could have done that. And yet I did it. Of course, it could have been anyone else. Atsumu was just lucky that his door was open. No need to remind him, Mr. Sexy Moles. Besides, you can also thank me for giving you once again the chance to witness my wonderful setter skills this week. Don't think I didn't catch the looks you were giving me, Omi-kun. Atsumu wouldn't be such a phenomenal setter if he wasn't so incredibly perceptive. There were reasons why he was able to pass every single ball so marvelously. The gift to analyze everything so well was only one of many. And Kyuumi's looks did not escape him. He could list them all. Every single one has burned itself into his memories. Every single one made Atsumu's heart soar. In such an odd way that the obnoxious spiker definitely didn't deserve to. Don't flatter yourself, Miya. You're not that good. Atsumu scoffed. I'm better than you. You wish. It's true. There's nothing you could beat me at. Oh, now he's getting cocky. Nothing Atsumu could beat him at? Please. There were so many things Atsumu could do better. His serves, for example, or the way he can adapt to every single player on the court even though he hasn't played with them before. He wasn't bad at coloring hair either even if Suna begged to differ, and... oh. Atsumu had no idea when 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 got that close. This is why you don't have an arch-rival, Omi, cause you focus on the wrong details. Atsumu's gaze dropped to Kyuumi's lips. He, on the other hand, was definitely focusing on the right details, on the important ones. There are plenty of things I could beat you at. Maybe I don't have an arch-rival because I win all my games. Atsumu's breath hitched as he caught 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅's gaze dropping to his own plush lips. He felt his face getting all hot, a slight smirk crawling up on his face. You wouldn't be able to win this one. And by this one, they both knew exactly what Atsumu was referring to. Of course, I would, Kyuumi stated confidently and Atsumu licked his lips. Wanna bet you wouldn't even have what it takes? Wanna bet there's nothing easier for me? Oh, he was fucking bold. Atsumu hated and loved it, wanted to push his luck even further. If a week of heated stares and missed opportunities meant that they were now both even more riled up, then well. Guess, Atsumu was a sold boy to whatever was about to come. Go on then, Omi, Atsumu smirked. Bring it. Prove it. Don't want to take your breath away, Miya. Now Kyuumi was the one smirking and Atsumu's courage tended to falter. If there was one thing Atsumu hated, it was not having the last word. He's not going to lose to 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 fucking Kyuumi. Wouldn't that be more the other way around? Atsumu murmured, voice dropping to a pissed off tone. 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 raised an eyebrow. A little confident, aren't we? God, Atsumu wanted to wipe that fucking grin off his face. He was so flustered just seconds before. What made him so damn confident? Fucking smug spiker. I'm rather realistic. Delusional. I'll say it again, Atsumu huffed, cheeks burning. Bring it. Okay, 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 said in hushed tones. Then he leaned in and murmured threatening. Just don't make this a thing. Don't make this a thing. How the hell was Atsumu not supposed to make this a fucking thing when 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅𝒊𝒕𝒔 kissed him, and more importantly, let Atsumu kiss him back? Given the slight height difference, 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 reached down and grabbed the back of Atsumu's neck to pull him in. The touch of his mouth was softer and warmer than Atsumu could ever imagine, their lips lining up oh so perfectly. Atsumu's heartbeat accelerated and throbbed in his ears. With the room being so damn quiet, he was sure Kayumi heard it too. As close as they were standing, Atsumu could feel Kayumi's body heat radiating and was sure he would get burned if he decreased the proximity any further. Shit. This was hot. 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 was so fucking hot. For a few seconds, Atsumu tried to comprehend what they were actually doing, then he suppressed the burst of a gay panic attack and gave himself completely into the kiss, proving his point. Whatever they were doing here, Atsumu would not cave in. He's a 𝒉𝒂𝒏𝒈, and the 𝒉𝒂𝒏𝒈s would never lose. Except this wasn't something he could win at. 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 released Atsumu's wrist to slide his arm around his waist, long clever fingers skimming over his black shirt to dig into Atsumu's covered flesh and pull him closer. It hurt a little bit, drawing a groan out of Atsumu that he couldn't stop. So, 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 took advantage of that moment and slipped his tongue between Atsumu's parted lips and kissed him for all he was worth. Atsumu dug his fist into the collar of that fucking ugly jacket and raised his other hand too to thread his fingers through the soft curls at the back of 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅's head. With his mind already half blown, Atsumu arched closer to him, stretching onto his tiptoes to keep the gap between them closed. Fuck getting burned. He needed to risk it all. Atsumu grinned at the sound 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 made when he bit Kayumi's bottom lip and ran his tongue over it in a playful apology. It was something between annoyance and arousal, shooting into places in Atsumu's body he hadn't thought too much about until now. 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅's hands immediately pulled him closer, pressing Atsumu's body against him and lining their hips up just right. Atsumu's head was spinning. Another spilled thoughtlessly into Kayumi's mouth because holy shit, apparently Atsumu wasn't the only one who was enjoying this a little too much. To keep his balance, Atsumu tightened his grip on 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅's jacket, letting him take control over whatever kind of battle they were for God's sake having here right now. 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 kissed him as if he wanted to devour him. The gestures of his warm tongue were so leisurely and measured, rolling against his own in a heady pressure that made Atsumu tremble. The kiss took his fucking breath away, which he actually meant to take away from Kayumi, but fuck it because Atsumu definitely wouldn't get tired of things being like this. Everywhere 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 touched him it was scalding hot, the long fingers burning into his neck, the grip on his waist numbing and exhilarating, his breath catching hotly in Atsumu's mouth. He consumed Atsumu with abandon, leaving a tickle down his spine that he could never get enough of which he yearned for more. Atsumu gasped into Kayumi's mouth, immediately swallowed like it was everything 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 craved for a living. His hand roamed from Atsumu's neck down his spine and settled on the small of his back, pinky already hinting at wanting more. To slide even deeper and fuck. They are in 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒅 and Komori's room. The Komori who has not yet packed his fucking things and could barge in any second. They are making out in a shared room of a stupid youth camp and Atsumu isn't sure if anyone could see how embarrassingly hard he is by now. Fuck, that they have too. As if 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 had also come back to his senses, he slowed down and sucked Atsumu's bottom lip between his teeth, coaxing another groan as he pulled it a tad too hard, breaking away from the kiss entirely. Atsumu released a shaky exhale and allowed his eyes to flutter open, letting himself get drunk as 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 held him in place and the glistening string of saliva joined their swollen lips. Whoa, it burst out of Atsumu as he stared into those burning coals of eyes, overwhelmed by everything 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 had given him. With flushed cheeks, they looked at each other, hearts beating faster than they ever had before in their lives. 𝒉𝒂𝒏𝒈, he heard 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 say, and then he repeated something that made Atsumu's stomach feel funny. Don't make this a thing. Right. This was nothing. Atsumu didn't trust his voice so he just nodded, letting the blood rush back into his whole body and not just cool in certain places. His knees were weak and immediately buckled as 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 removed his arms from his body. Atsumu's hands instantly darted to the ledge behind him to brace himself, but 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅's firm grip was already back around Atsumu's arm to keep his head from kissing the floor. Shit, no one had ever affected him like this before. The look 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 was giving him was confusing and intimidating. In the gloom of his eyes swelled something like worry and aggravation, a mix of yes and no, wanting and not wanting, uncertainty and... Oh, Atsumu. Here you are. They both snapped apart, Atsumu quickly ripping his arm off 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅's grip as he saw Komori entering their shared room. Oh shit. Oh shit. I just wanted to say goodbye. You weren't in your room and I thought you had already left. I honestly didn't expect to see you here, like, at all. Komori rubbed the back of his head and grinned sheepishly. He wanted to ask for tips on how to win his games before we left, 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 answered smoothly because Atsumu still hadn't found his voice. Yikes. Were they helpful? Kayumi can get a little carried away sometimes. Oh screw him, he fucking did get carried away. Yeah, Atsumu replied breathlessly swallowing hard. Figured. He held 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒔's gaze and tried to calm his heart. With deep even breaths he tried to regain his composure and pretend that nothing had happened. Luckily Komori didn't catch them. Can't wait for the next spring tournament to see if the tips helped. Mia. Atsumu blinked as Kyumi pulled on his white mask while staring him in the eyes. It was his cue to leave. He should really fucking go before he spat out something dumb. So, he just nodded and hurried out of the room. See ya, Komori-kun, he said as he passed Motoa, but he couldn't even look him in the eyes. As he walked down the hallway back to his room, he overheard Komori asking Kyumi if he had seen his shoe, but Atsumu couldn't think twice about it. No. All his brain was able to think about was the fact that he had kissed Kyumi. Or rather, that Kyumi had kissed him. 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒔. Fucking. Kyumi. Where was Osamu when Atsumu needed him? Slightly panicking, he typed in his brother's number. Dash. Atsumu did make a thing out of it. Where the fuck have you been? I'm having a major life crisis and you guys are what? Just strolling around, French kissing each other like a couple of hookers. Atsumu narrowed his eyes, observing his twin a little closer. Then he contorted his face in disgust. What is that, Samu? Is that a hickey? Ya two are disgusting. Suna couldn't help but wear that crappy lazy smile on his face while Osamu scowled at his brother. But before he was able to scold him, Atsumu continued to ramble. Wait a minute, he interrupted himself. Did you? Are you two finally? Yetsumu, now get the fuck out of here. We were just in the middle of something. Oh fucking finally. Atsumu exclaimed in relief, rushing to his brother to hug him, giving Suna a fat peck on his cheek, and then contorting his face in disgust as he realized what this something was supposed to be. He couldn't have cared less, though, because now he had to complain about Kyumi. The Kyumi who kissed him like, only a few hours ago. So, Atsumu forced himself between Suna and his brother on the bottom bunk and started to rant while Osamu's nerves were about to burst. Osamu clicked his tongue. Atsumu, would ya? Move your ass, Samu. What the fuck, are you blind? Not as much as you are. What's that even supposed to mean? It means that everyone was able to see how much Rin was into you. Can't believe it took you months to figure it out when you've been practically glued to him since the first day of high school just to gush about him. And then you didn't even believe your own twin brother. You wound me, Samu. Osamu blushed and Suna grinned, raising an eyebrow and giving Osamu a pointed look. Is that so? Have you seen Rin today? Atsumu mimicked, smirking at Suna. He was so cute when he missed that spike. And the way he stretched after practice. Atsumu, what if he doesn't like my gray hair? Atsumu rolled his eyes but smiled. So. Fucking. Annoying. Miyu Atsumu, would you shut the fuck up right now? Osamu's covered his beet red face with his hand and shut his eyes, fed up and embarrassed. If he could, steam would be whistling out of his ears by now. He and Rin just got together, his boyfriend didn't need to know everything about Osamu being a hardcore simp for him just yet. In fact, he should never know. Thanks to Atsumu, however, that side was now utterly exposed. It's cute, Suna chuckled, tell me more about it. Osamu smacked his hand over Atsumu's mouth and shoved him back against the wall to prevent him from exposing him even more. Osamu's eyes were wide open while Atsumu contorted his face in pain as the back of his head hit the hard plaster and scowled at his brother when he didn't let him go. No fucking, ouch. What the hell, Atsumu? Atsumu bit his brother's fingers to get rid of his hand from his mouth and to be able to nag him. Suna's fingers were already twitching near his phone, sensing this could be another good fight between the twins. Keep your hands off, scrub. I don't even wanna know where they've been. Oh, Suna grinned, wiggling his eyebrows. Maybe you really don't wanna know. Atsumu's eyes widen, his heart dropped into the pit of his stomach. You, he says once, then, you. He jumped up from the bed and stuck out his tongue, flapping his hands over it repeatedly to get rid of his brother's germs. Or maybe Suna's. Or both. Only the devil knew. Atsumu hurried to the bathroom and rinsed his mouth using mouthwash, slathered toothpaste on his toothbrush, and then returned to the twins' shared room, brushing his teeth frantically. He scowled at both Osamu and Suna. You two are disgusting, he said with the toothbrush sticking in his mouth. Sounds like someone's envious, Suna teased, smirking. I'm not. Atsumu nearly spat the toothpaste foam out of his mouth and decided to pause mid-sentence to actually spit it into the sink, rinse his mouth again 2 times, and return to the two idiots, feeling somewhat clean. I'm not envious. Guess you once again failed to hit on that omi of yours, huh? Osamu raised an eyebrow to rile his twin up. Suna dropped down to the side to rest his head on Osamu's lap, letting his boyfriend run his fingers through his messy hair while playing on his phone. First thing, he's not my omi, and second, stop fucking calling him like that, Samu, what the fuck? Osamu grinned wickedly. What? Did he ignore you again? Atsumu huffed and put his hands on his hips. Bastard kept making eye contact with me during the whole week but was too pretentious to talk to me. So he was ignoring you. That obnoxious prick thinks he's better than everybody else just cause he's one of Japan's top aces. As if he was untouchable and could kill anyone with his gaze if you got just a tad too close. But you know what, Samu? Atsumu smirked at his brother, recalling the memories of their departure. It's almost embarrassing what a big fat crush he has on me. Rin's phone fell flat on his face and Osamu cocked a brow at how smug and determined his brother sounded. A smile crept onto his lips while Rin had been propping himself up on his elbows to stare incredulously at Atsumu. Excuse me? They both said in unison, not believing Atsumu's shit. Yeah, Atsumu said, flailing, his hand around closing his eyes. Kissed me and everything. I literally took his breath away. He kept on bragging. You should have seen how his knees buckled. Osamu and Rin turned their heads to face each other, both looking equally stunned. Osamu tried to stifle a laugh while Rin's eyebrows almost met his hairline. Then Osamu turned back to his brother and gave him a half-pissed, half-amused look. Right, 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒔 is supposed to have kissed you. It's true, Atsumu said nonchalantly. And you're supposed to have taken his breath away, Rin pointed out. He wasn't able to stand properly when I broke the kiss. The two didn't need to know that Atsumu might be twisting the story just a teeny tiny bit. Who would ever find out? Osamu and Suna looked at each other again and this time Suna was the one who had to stifle a laugh while Osamu frowned. Yeah, such a shitty liar, Atsumu. Atsumu snapped his eyes open and stared at his twin's face, dumbfounded and shocked. Hua. He contorted his face, exposed and pissed. I'm not a liar. Yeah, that story is totally not made up at all, Suna snickered. It's not. Only partly. Yeah, making this up cause Rin and I are datin' now? No. What the hell, why would I, Samu? Atsumu huffed and crossed his arms, turning away from those two idiots and closing his eyes again, a habit he tended to have when telling things that might not be entirely true. If Osamu had figured it out long ago? Of course, he has. Whether Atsumu himself was aware of this habit? Not at all. You'll see how he'll be all over me by the next time we meet. Yeah, Suna grinned. Can't wait to see that. Listen Tsumu, you don't have to lie. Just because I made out with Rin and am now practically one step ahead of you doesn't mean. Yeah not. Atsumu scoffed. You just wait and see, I'll prove it to you. Next spring tournament, he won't ignore me anymore. Dash. Next spring tournament, 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒔 ignored him again. And the following inter-high tournament somehow too. And even in their final national spring tournament as high school third graders, 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒔 didn't glance at Atsumu. It was frustrating, nerve-wracking that he didn't care at all whether Atsumu was there or not. All 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒔 seemed to have eyes for was to win the tournament, to concentrate on volleyball, to avoid Atsumu. Bastard. Losing to Karasuno in their second-year spring tournament was surprising and disappointing. No clue if it was because Atsumu was still thinking about the kiss between him and 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒔, and that idiot watching him during the match didn't make the whole thing any better. Normally, Atsumu would love the attention. This time, however, he felt as if Kayumi wasn't focused on him during the game, but on Kageyama and that shrimp called Hinata. And he couldn't even be mad at him, because this duo was attracting everyone's attention, even Atsumu's. Their quick attack was outstanding, the flow of how they interacted together was insane. However, it was nothing that Atsumu couldn't coax out of his players as well. Perhaps he was also a bit taken aback, given how much Kageyama had changed since youth camp. However, it was a consolation that neither Karasuno nor Itachiama won the tournament. Neither of them deserved it. They went far at the following inter-high but then were defeated in the semi-finals by Nakoma, who also narrowly defeated Fukuorodani in the final. In the fall Inarizaki qualified for the spring tournament and faced Karasuno in the third round. Kageyama and Hinata have improved quite a bit since the last time Karasuno encountered Inarizaki, but they still just barely came up short against the third-year Miya brothers. Osamu and Atsumu were beastly. So they had a break before facing Itachiama in the final and Atsumu vowed to take this victory home. Screw that flawless face of 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒔. Atsumu would show him what he's been missing out on. Sunarin, what the fuck are you doing? Felt cute, might delete later. Delete it now. The twins shouted in unison, reprimanding their best friend as he snapped a selfie with the brothers in the background wearing nothing but matching avocado underwear. They changed back into their tracksuits for the break, as it was still a while before the final match eventually started. Nahibi Academy and Komomade High faced each other in the third place match, with all of Inarizaki and half of Itachiama watching them. To be honest, only a part of Inarizaki was watching, because the other part was either busy with themselves aka Osamu and Suna were making out with each other in a sickening way, or annoyed by those who were busy with themselves aka Atsumu, who was fed up with the behavior of the two of them. My life is a soup and I'm a fucking fork, Atsumu whined with his face buried in his hands. Get yourself a boyfriend, Tsumu. Shut the fuck up, Samu. I'll shut him up. Alright Tsumu, you don't have to worry about it, Suna smirked, leaning in to give Osamu another kiss. Yeah fucking vile Sunarin, I hate you. Yeah sure are dry as hell, this is just a normal convo between two lovers Tsumu. Course you wouldn't get it, Osamu said, fidgeting with the zipper of Suna's jacket. You really do strike me as someone who's real dry, Atsumu-kun. Komori joined in, smirking at them and wiggling his eyebrows. He had heard them while getting back from buying snacks to enjoy the current match, was passing by, and stopped as the trio caught his attention. Atsumu liked Motoa, even though he was Kayumi's cousin, these two were luckily nothing alike. It's a mystery why he voluntarily hung out with that sea urchin so much. See, Samu. Told you dots for eyebrows has it in him, Suna said, snickering at Motoa joining the couple to bully Atsumu. Wait, so you can actually see my eyebrows? I thought since you missed receiving almost every serve last match that you probably have issues with your eyesight, Motoya replied, making both Atsumu and Osamu cackle loudly, knowing so well that bothered Suna from the way his face contorted. Yeah, Sunarin. What was that about? Did the players from 𝒂𝒐𝒉𝒆𝒔 High intimidate you that much? Shut up, Tsumu. I don't need to hear anything from someone whose favorite team is the Black Jacks. Atsumu groaned, Osamu grinned widely, and Motoya's ears perked up out of curiosity. Gimme a break of yeah Marble League bullshit. I only picked that team cause they sound similar to the Division 1 team MSBY Black Jackals. Atsumu bickered. Wait, Motoya interfered again. You guys watch the Marble League too? Yes. Osamu and Suna exclaimed in unison, now turning to Motoya. Who's your favorite team? Suna asked mischievously and Motoya chuckled, winking and raising his index finger. The Savage Speeders, of course. There's a reason why they are at the top every year. Right. Finally, someone with taste. Osamu proclaimed, laughing now. Guess we should introduce ourselves properly. I'm Miya Osamu and this is Suna Rintaro. Suna smirked and bowed. Tsumu was right, you are really cool, Motoa. Oh my god, yeah not really talking about marbles now. Atsumu deadpanned, but the three had long since ignored him and were delving into their conversation about the Marble League. It wasn't enough that his idiot of a brother and his even more idiotic boyfriend had to stick their tongues down their throats in front of him, no. Now Komori Motoa, 𝒂𝒐𝒉𝒆𝒔 Kayumi's crappy cousin, had to join them as well and talk about the most boring topic in the world. Don't get Atsumu wrong, he's happy that his brother and Suna were a couple now, but they could be so awfully sweet in love that it made his stomach churn and made him want to hurl at least 5 times. Because he would like to have that same thing with Kayumi? Hahaha no, absolutely not. Yes he wanted to. Pissed off by Osamu and Suna, a little bit by Motoa, and definitely by Kayumi, who ignored him again during the whole day, Atsumu marched toward the locker room to cool down on the one hand and to prepare himself mentally for the final match on the other hand. This was a game he wanted and needed to win. He would show this bastard of a top ace what he gained from giving Atsumu the cold shoulder. Arrived at the locker rooms, Atsumu was about to put his hand on the doorknob when at that very same moment someone slammed the door open from the inside, rushed out, and crashed into Atsumu out of sheer fright. Oh, this tall figure, this soft skin, and this disgusting yellow tracksuit. Easy there, Atsumu smirked, and maybe his heart did 1,000 leaps because Kayumi just ran into him in a panic. Did you see a ghost or something? Kayumi took a step back but moved away from the door in disgust. He frowned and scowled at Atsumu, twisting his mouth into a pout as a shudder ran over his body as if trying to shake something off. Atsumu watched him with wide eyes and a pounding heart. I was just about to get changed. But there's a cockroach in there. Atsumu blinked once, twice, then again. And again, and again, and again. Then he snorted, scrubbed both hands over his face, and then ran them through his hair, gripping it tightly and internally releasing a loud scream. Was this how they would meet every time? You can't be fucking serious, Omi? Atsumu said half laughing, half in despair. Do I look like I'm not serious? Kayumi deadpanned and no, he didn't. Atsumu could keep teasing him but to be honest, he felt a little sorry for him, since Kayumi looked really stressed and Atsumu's little heart somehow couldn't take making fun of him, even if he deserved it. So he raised his hand and entered the locker room, smirking smugly. Alright, I guess I'll be your knight in shining armor once again then. Before turning his attention to the cockroach, however, he stopped and turned to Kayumi with a mischievous grin. What will my reward be? On purpose, he dropped his gaze to Kayumi's tender lips, on purpose he lowered the tone in his voice, and on purpose, he glanced at him with hooded eyes. 𝒂𝒐𝒉𝒆𝒔 might have avoided him throughout the whole tournament, but the stolen glances didn't pass Atsumu unnoticed. The slight blush in his cheeks revealed to Atsumu that he must be triggering something in him at least as much as 𝒂𝒐𝒉𝒆𝒔 did in him, and the pissed off expression exposed that he was resisting it for whatever reason. Yet they could have so much fun together if he didn't hold back. Get rid of the cockroach first, and then we'll see. Kyumi scowled. What about another kiss? What? 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅𝒊𝒕𝒔 mocked and grinned wickedly. Want me to take your breath away like last time? Just before the match? You want to lose so badly, Miya? Ha. Obnoxious prick. Atsumu snorted, contorted his face into a kind of pissed expression. He isn't necessarily proud of how his body reacted to their first kiss, but Atsumu wasn't the only one who had somehow brought the lower half of his body back to life with it. He could feel 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 getting at least as turned on. Don't think I'm that easy, Omi. I don't have to, it's a given. You just wait and see, I'll prove you how wrong you are. Go on then, 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 crossed his arms and grinned. Show me. Atsumu's eyes widened, blush settled high on his cheeks. Wait, really? Atsumu's pulse stuttered out of time, his gaze dropped to Kyumi's beautiful lips. He licked his own, felt his heart thrashing into his throat as he leaned in. He didn't get a chance to get as close to Kyumi as he wanted, though, because the bastard flicked his index finger against Atsumu's forehead to stop him. Ouch, what the fuck, Omi? Not now, Dumbus. Get rid of the cockroach first. Atsumu scowled at 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 at least as much as he scowled at him, turning around and muttering a few unintelligible curses under his breath. Inside the locker room, he looked around and spotted the cockroach on the floor near one of the benches. It's smaller than the one he had eliminated for Kyumi last time, but somehow more disgusting. I tried to throw Motoya's shoe at it, but I didn't catch it because I was standing too far away, Kyumi confessed. Atsumu screwed up his face in disgust and noticed that Kyumi didn't follow him any further. He wasn't surprised because last time he had literally tried to set the whole training camp on fire. It was a wonder he hadn't tried the same thing this time, instead going straight for his cousin's shoe. Hey, those are new. Atsumu remarked, and then he remembered that right, Kyumi had thrown the last shoe somewhere into nowhere. Man, that would be a shame to ruin them. Can't we just take your old ones, Omi-kun? Do you want to die? And a shudder rippled through Atsumu's body at the look 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆🅄 was giving him. He meant it, this part of 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆🅄 was not to be trifled with. No, Atsumu muttered quietly, picking up Komori's shoe. Just promise me you won't throw it away again. No, double quote. Omi. No, double quote. Atsumu sighed. Then I won't help you. He dropped his arms and lowered the shoe to the ground, turning to 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆🅄 and giving him a reproachful look. He tried to withstand 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅's intimidating stare, couldn't risk Komori having to buy new shoes because of his cousin once again. As Atsumu snorted, shook his head, and walked past 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 to head back out of the locker room, however, the deep and desperate voice that triggered certain things in Atsumu that he wasn't necessarily proud of stopped him. Miya, wait. Atsumu paused and looked back over his shoulder. Just kill the cockroach, please. Now Atsumu almost felt sorry for being so hard on Kyumi. The boy looked really desperate, must have a genuinely big problem with bugs. Atsumu's heart clenched harder and harder in his chest with every second he stared at 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅. Then he took a deep breath and nodded, picking up Komori's shoe and stepping a little closer to the cockroach. This one was really disgusting. And fast. Oh god, he had to kill it quickly before it got away from him. Atsumu lashed out and threw the shoe at the bug. A crack sound as well as the sound of the shoe hitting the ground filled the room, leaving Atsumu smiling. He smacked his hands together in satisfaction and turned back to Kyumi, looking much more relaxed now. Atsumu grinned smugly at the curly-haired boy and raised his eyebrows. There you go, he said, smiling. Then, so, about my reward. You sound pretty desperate for someone who's been spreading the word that you stole my breath away. 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 crossed his arms in front of his chest and raised an eyebrow, looking at Atsumu almost reproachfully. When Atsumu only blinked in bewilderment, a smug grin crept onto Kyumi's lips. The setter gulped and smiled nervously. What? I have no idea what you mean. Oh, 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅's smirk grew meaner. Then I guess you weren't the one telling the tales about me having a big fat crush on you? Atsumu's heart was beating harder and harder, his stomach churning. He must have heard him, Osamu, and Suna talking about all that stuff in the spring tournament last year, when the two of them brought up the subject again the moment they saw Itachiyama's team. Was that why he scowled at him back then? Why he ignored him throughout the whole tournament? Fuck, he couldn't have heard them, could he? 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 stepped closer to Atsumu and grasped his wrist with one hand, settling the other under his chin and tilting his head to make him glance up. Atsumu's face was deeply flushed, his heart was pounding hard in his throat, and his mouth opened against his will as Kyumi leaned in. You think you can get away with this shit, Miya? Just as Kyumi was about to lean back, Atsumu grabbed the collar of his jersey and kept him in place. His reddened face contorted in annoyance. He certainly wasn't going to let that bastard win whatever that was between them. Maybe I got something mixed up there, Kyumi. Why don't you jog my memory a bit? Help me out a little. And do you a favor? Kyumi huffed and cocked a brow. Why should I? And do yourself a favor, Atsumu corrected him and smirked smugly, covering up how much he was screwed for a hot minute. His smirk widened as Kyumi's dark eyes lingered on his lips for a moment too long. Then he murmured, it's been a while since you've kissed someone this good. Kyumi scoffed. How would you know? Atsumu tiptoed and leaned in a tad closer. Just a feeling, he murmured, then whispered against Kyumi's lips. So? You wanna give me my reward? I promise I won't steal your breath away this time. Kyumi huffed out a laugh, then grinned somewhat pissed off. Bastard, he said, yanking Atsumu's jacket toward him and forcing their lips together. Atsumu's lips opened instantly and Kyumi followed him without wasting another second, letting their tongues slide together lively and pulling a groan from the setter before he can stop himself. Explicit content coming up. Please finish reading this scene on AO3. Link is in the info box. It took them both, a couple of blinks to clear their minds and catch their breaths, realizing what the fuck just happened. Shit, Atsumu cursed, dropping his forehead against Kyumi's and smiling lazily. His legs were shaking so badly, he had no idea how he was going to play volleyball in a minute. They stayed like that for exactly 20 seconds before SakuAtsu shoved Atsumu off, causing him to plop his butt on the floor and let out another shocked gasp. Atsumu's eyes were wide open, his brow furrowing. Hey! He yelled, but SakuAtsu stared at him utterly disgusted, the flush in his face only faintly visible. I need to take a hot shower, Kyumi said, scowling down at his pants. Ya do realize we're playing the finals in. Atsumu checked the clock and realized they barely had a few minutes left until they needed to head to the court for warm-ups. Less than 5 minutes? Fuck, there's no time for showering, Omi. SakuAtsu got up annoyed and hurried to the sinks, bringing himself and Atsumu a few tissues to at least wipe away some evidence. An awkward silence fell over the two. Atsumu was too overwhelmed and also didn't want to ruin the moment by saying something stupid. When he was reasonably done, he slid over to Motoya's shoe to remove the cockroach from the sole. When he turned it over, however, his fast-beating heart slipped into the pit of his stomach, making it churn. Fuck, this couldn't be true, right? What? Kyumi snapped and examined Atsumu with dangerous eyes. Remember how I killed the cockroach? Kyumi didn't answer him. Atsumu chuckled nervously. Yeah, turns out I actually didn't. It's kinda gone. The way Kyumi's face suddenly became even paler was almost funny if Atsumu didn't somehow fear for his life. Kyumi swallowed thickly, his body standing rooted to the spot. His eyes were wide open, uneasiness and panic creeping into his face. Then he stared back into Atsumu's golden eyes, scowling at him while his eyes grew dark. Are you telling me right now, began SakuAtsu slowly, and it was menacing, scary. Are you telling me right now that I kissed you, as a reward, for something you never got done? Atsumu gulped, blinking at him 1,000 times. I am. Are you telling me right now, he raised his voice and closed his eyes to somehow keep his irritation under control, that I stained myself for no reason, that this fucking cockroach can come back? He opened his eyes again, and yeah, by the look Kyumi was giving Atsumu, he should have died by now at the latest. That all this was for nothing. Atsumu was still at a loss for words. He was too intimidated to answer Kyumi. Maybe he should run away. Leave the country. Brazil still recruits young talented players, don't they? You know what, Omi? Atsumu scrambled back to his feet, knees still shaking. I guess I'll see you on the court. Mia, Kyumi warned, but Atsumu rushed out of the locker room and hid in the crowd of people Kyumi would never willingly run into. Mia. He shouted again, but Atsumu was out of reach, closing his eyes as he leaned against a wall, out of breath, reviewing the last half hour. Years later, he would admit to himself that yes, the victory against Tachiyama in his last spring tournament was not the fairest. But for today, he just grinned smugly, because SakuAtsu Kyumi had kissed him, had come with him, was as smitten with Atsumu as he was with him. And if that wasn't an achievement. The fact that SakuAtsu didn't go pro right after high school was on the one hand surprising for Atsumu, but on the other hand not at all. Instead of being recruited by a Division 1 team right away, SakuAtsu went to the University of Tokyo and studied something related to economics. As Atsumu was told, this was the wish of SakuAtsu's parents. Since he never exchanged numbers with Kyumi and this moron was as inactive on social media as Hinata was in his match against Komomade High in his first high school year, Rip Shrimpy, Atsumu and SakuAtsu have lost track of each other since that last spring tournament. Atsumu on the other hand was scouted by the MSBY Black Jackals and was eventually accepted into their team. It didn't take long for the blonde to prove himself and get a regular place as their starting setter. The team was crazy and at least as wild and hungry for volleyball as Atsumu, which ignited his love for the sport even more. The chaos doubled once 𝒂𝒏𝒈 also joined the team in Osaka after graduating from college, and Atsumu had an ace with him that he knew would have the other team's legs shaking. The monster generation was slowly coming back. MSBY was successful, playing at the top with Nagano's 𝒂𝒑𝒉𝒆𝒔s and Tokyo's Sweden Adlers. So it was no wonder that only the best of the best were chosen for the tryouts, and Atsumu should have known that 𝒂𝒑𝒂𝒄𝒉𝒈, as the MVP at the recent Japan National Collegiate Volleyball Championship, could be a promising rookie to the Jackals. Mia. Yeah, he became just that, and honestly they were both a little startled to see each other because holy shit, the guy got even taller and so much prettier, and since when was he that hot? But if this counted as one of Atsumu's gay panic moments, Kyumi's was even worse. Because yes, he had seen him on TV, and yes, he knew that Atsumu has become a whole lot more attractive since high school, even if he was already hot as fuck back then, but Kyumi still didn't expect the lighter blonde, the broad shoulders, and those fucking muscular thighs to have such a huge effect on him. Oh, fuck. Why did he join the Jackals again? Omi-kun, Atsumu smirked. Missed my pretty face, eh? Yes. No, right double quotation mark. Oh, Kyumi was such a weak man. Honestly didn't expect to see you here. Would have guessed you'd be joining the Adlers. Atsumu wriggled his brows and leaned obnoxiously close to Kyumi. My sets must have convinced you, huh? Of course, Atsumu's ego was pushed even more over the years. Osamu described him as even more obnoxious than he was back in high school. Atsumu improved a lot, got even more attention due to his pro career, had probably the biggest fan base of the Jackals, and was rated Japan's most attractive player this year for a reason. Luckily Iwaizumi decided to take a different path in sports. Full stop. And the kiss in their last spring tournament, of course, Atsumu could never forget that, and Kyumi honestly couldn't either. You don't even want to know how many times he pestered Motoya about it. So maybe Atsumu had every reason to act so smugly because Kyumi should know that the blonde had an inkling this affected him at least as much as it affected Atsumu. Itachi, I am a lost for a reason. So, to think that Kyumi joined the MSBY Black Jackals because of Atsumu had its justification. But in truth, Kyumi just flipped a coin. Your serves lack speed and power, 𝒂𝒑𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒔 replied bluntly. Are you still getting used to the new ball? Atsumu flinched, a pissed off expression settling onto his face. What's that supposed to mean? If it was based on who had the best sets, I would have chosen the Adlers. Kyumi smirked nastily. He knew Atsumu was quick to get riled up when he was compared to Kageyama. The world doesn't revolve around you, Mia. My decision was rational. Atsumu huffed, hands on his hips. Rational in the sense that we are the better team? Rational in the sense that I let coincidence decide because MSBY and the Sweden Adler are equally good. What? Atsumu snorted. Flipped a coin or something? Yes, I flipped a coin. Atsumu blinked a few times, then laughed. 𝒂𝒑𝒂𝒄𝒉𝒈 was really just as blunt as ever. Yeah, having them both on the same team was both a curse and a blessing for MSBY. Like the competitive assholes they were, they naturally made a battle out of everything. Who had the better serves? Tied. Who scored more service aces? Kyumi. Who could do more deadlifts? Atsumu. Bless his thighs. And who would cave in faster to address whatever that was between them? Oh, we'll get to that in a minute, but just for the record, it was Atsumu, or kind of Kyumi? Maybe both in a way. They bantered and bickered a lot, riling each other up to the point it was either amusing their teammates or consuming every bit of their nerves. Inunaki and Mian often disagreed on the two. While the sneaky libero used snarky comments to play the two off against each other for funsies, Mian needed to keep a low profile so that all the head bonking wouldn't jeopardize their interplay at some point. But of course, the two would never let it get that far. Kyumi and Atsumu were still professional and insanely good volleyball players. If anything, their little banter would spur them on to be better than the other, to get even better. It definitely helped to improve their skills and sent their fun playing together skyrocketing. And this also affected their teammates. The hunger to win, the thrill of every successful interplay, Kyumi and Atsumu dragged all of the Jackals along with them. So maybe having them both on the same team was more of a blessing than a curse. At least considering the team's success. A few months after Kyumi joined the team, things got even more chaotic when Hinata became a part of it as well. To welcome the new little rookie appropriately, Mian made everyone go to a bar for a team bonding session, forcing 𝒂𝒑𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒔 to tag along since he's dipped every time before. There was a specific reason for that. There's a cockroach under your seat, Omi. The speed of sound was nothing compared to how fast Kyumi had gotten up and almost flipped the whole damn table over. Those who had their drinks in their hands were lucky because all the others were knocked over. Among them was Kyumi's red wine, which stained Atsumu's white shirt. Oh, shit. Geez, Omi-kun, I was just kidding. Atsumu laughed and raised his arms away from his body so the liquids could drip down his soft, tanned skin. With his eyes wide opened and his hands clasped in front of his mouth, Kyumi stared at Atsumu partly in horror, partly apologetically. His heart was beating fast because he was so scared of the non-existent cockroach, or because Atsumu's muscles were revealed by the wet fabric. He wanted to convince himself of the former when in truth it was rather the latter. Kyumi's stomach felt funny from the way Atsumu was looking at him. His throat was getting dry. Heat crept up into his cheeks. Atsumu's gaze was a little too intense. Fuck, he'd never been able to escape those eyes. I'm sorry, Kyumi mumbled beneath his hands. Then he frowned, realizing that he didn't really need to be sorry at all since Atsumu was the one messing with him. This bastard was still absolutely fucking unhinged. Ugh, Atsumu chuckled, flailing his hands. That's gonna leave a nasty stain. Maybe I should try to rinse that out. Wait, I'll help you. It was the least he could do. Even if this was actually Miya's own fault, Kyumi was nevertheless not an asshole. Inunaki brought his hands to his mouth and booed, giving them a thumbs down when they left the team to go to the bathroom. That's the lamest way to get someone in bed, Miya. 𝒂𝒐 has some interesting methods, Bakuto agreed, closing his eyes and nodding his head, thinking hard. His beefy arms were crossed in front of his chest. 1,000 yen on them making out as soon as they step into the bathroom. Inunaki snorted at Thomas' bet. 2,000 yen on them going to Fu. Mian bonked their heads before Inunaki was able to finish stating his bet and threw some towels into their faces to mop up the mess. Leave them alone and better clean this up before they come back. You know how hard it was to convince 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 to join us tonight. Hey, has anyone seen Hinata? He's missing out on the good stuff. Atsumu and Kyumi didn't catch whether anyone answered Bakuto's question, too busy to make their way to the bathroom. Kyumi ignored the comments of his teammates, also tried to ignore how fucking ripped Atsumu looked with that stupid wet shirt clinging to his abs. Him pulling it off didn't exactly calm down Kyumi's heart. Instead, it picked up a speed that Kyumi only knew from particularly strenuous games, leaving his throat so dry that it was hard to swallow his lewd fantasies. He had to turn away and brace himself at the sink to avoid looking anywhere remotely close to Miya. What the hell, since when was he that confident? And why the hell did he deserve to have such a damn glow up? Yeah, still afraid of these bugs? Kyumi met Atsumu's smirk as he tilted his head up and looked at the damn setter through the mirror. With his arms still trapped in his shirt, Atsumu showed off his muscular chest. Kyumi clawed at the edge of the sink. He's gonna lose it. Oh fuck, he's gonna lose it so badly. Could you hurry up a little? Atsumu raised an eyebrow at 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅's snarky comment and then had to smirk a little wider because the way onyx eyes flitted over his body and the touch of soft pink tinted Kyumi's cheeks were impossible for him to miss. He's checking him out, huh? Like back in youth camp? Atsumu had always noticed 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 sneaking glances at him. Full of himself, he took his shirt fully off and stood next to Kyumi, muscles full on display and shit. He opened the faucet while maintaining eye contact with Kyumi through the mirror, fully aware of how strongly his heart was beating. He's always had it bad with Kyumi, too. Too bad there wasn't actually a cockroach there. Atsumu started scrubbing the stain out with some soap, focusing on getting rid of it before he lifted his gaze again. Could have played 𝒂𝒄𝒄𝒅 again, like I used to. Atsumu wiggled his eyebrows. Kyumi grimaced. Yeah right, like back when you did a shitty job and my team lost the tournament because of you? Atsumu scoffed, feigning being hurt. Because of me? Yeah, because of you. Kyumi snapped, pouting and crossing his arms in front of his chest. He turned away from the mirror and leaned his ass against the sink. He pursed his lips and forced himself not to look at Atsumu, only now realizing that he wasn't helping him remove the stain at all. Just like the bastard deserved. Or, come on Omi, don't be like that. After all, I was trying to save you, it's the intention that counts and all, you know? Tried to save my ass, Kyumi mumbled. You made me kiss you when you didn't even deserve it. Atsumu chuckled, turned off the faucet, and grabbed 2 tissues to dry his hands. Then he leaned slightly back to stare directly into Kyumi's eyes, dropped his eyelids halfway, and murmured, didn't look like you minded. Ah, so he was playing games again? Alright. Kyumi could join in. You could have just said if you couldn't get enough of me. Kyumi grinned pissed off and so did Atsumu. Wasn't it more the other way around? Now you're getting delusional. I wasn't that delusional when I won against you in the finals. Kyumi squinted his eyes. By dirty methods. Just proved how much of an arch-rival I am to you. Remember how you insisted you win all your games? Didn't look like you won that one. Atsumu licked his lips and dropped his gaze to Kyumi's mouth. Doesn't look like you're gonna win this one, he then mumbled. Kyumi grabbed Atsumu's chin and squished his cheeks and lips together. The sudden grip startled Atsumu and jerked his gaze back up into fiery dark eyes. Don't start anything you can't finish. Atsumu smiled pissed off, or at least tried to as much as it was possible in Kyumi's tight grip. Scared you're gonna lose to me? Kyumi scoffed. I'm just sick of your games, Miya. Alright. Atsumu grabbed Kayumi's wrist, removed it from his face, and brought his hand back to the edge of the sink. He caged Kayumi in, thighs brushing against thighs, leaning impossibly close as he whispered the following words. No games, then. I can show you how serious I am instead. Kayumi's heart beat fast and strong, his gaze darting back and forth between sickeningly confident golden eyes. He knew his own cheeks must be flushed by the way heat coursed through his whole body, but what did it matter if Atsumu's were at least as red? His gaze drifted from seductive eyes to even more seductive plush lips, slightly parted, glossy, and so full. Kayumi noticed how Atsumu drew in a sharp breath, and by then, at the latest, it was over with him. Explicit content coming up. Please finish reading this scene on AO3. Link is in the info box. Before he could say anything, however, the bathroom was filled with muffled voices in the background as the door opened and someone entered wordlessly. However, when neither footsteps nor any other sounds could be detected, Atsumu and SakuAtsu glanced at each other in confusion, pondering how this could possibly be. Then their eyes widened simultaneously and they both sucked in a sharp breath. Oh, fuck, they said in unison as they realized that, rather, someone was wordlessly stepping out of the bathroom. And remembering back that a certain person had been missing earlier, their hearts slid down much further than just to the pit of their stomachs. Oh, Hinata must have imagined his start a little differently. Kayumi reached for some toilet paper to clean himself up and handed the roll to Atsumu so he could do the same. They dressed wordlessly in a hurry until Atsumu stopped Kayumi and looked at him with wide eyes. Wait, Omi, my shirt is still wet. Kayumi didn't let him finish and threw his jacket into his face. Keep it, burn it, I don't care what you do, but I. Full of panic, Kayumi ran his hand through his hair. Would Hinata tell the others about this? Would MSBY kick him out now? Fuck, MSBY would kick him out. After all, he only joined the team half a year ago. I need to go home. Omi. But Atsumu couldn't stop him. Kayumi was already gone in a blink of an eye. He leaned the back of his head against the wall of the stall and scrubbed a hand over his face, still needing to calm his heart down from what just happened in here. The two of them needed to sort out whatever this was between them. First, though, he would have to face his smug teammates and get a telling off from Mian. SakuAtsu Kayumi was a stress cleaner. With the hairband pulled over his curls, mask and gloves on, and spray bottle in hand, he scrubbed over the tiles in his bathroom a third time, fooling himself that they weren't clean yet. It's not stress cleaning if he doesn't scrub over it at least 5 times. And this certainly has nothing to do with Miya Atsumu. Oh no. Why don't you guys talk about it already? Motoya said through the speaker, sounding a little out of breath. He was probably doing his morning exercise routine. There is nothing to talk about, Motoya. I don't want anything from him. Kayumi lied because there was so much he wanted from Miya. Sure, that's why you've been whining to me since youth camp about how much you want to be crushed by his thighs. Kayumi blushed. Shut up. He's your teammate. Exactly. MSBY would kick me out if. Oh shut up Kyo, Mian is just waiting until he gets his 5,000 yen from Thomas when you finally get together. Kayumi stopped mid-scrub. Mian bet on us? He could hear someone snorting in the background and scowled at his phone as if Motoya could see him. He just has faith in you. Kayumi wanted the earth to swallow him up. He had been avoiding the team ever since last night and he didn't think he would ever be able to see them ever again. I think I'll join the Adlers. Ashijima said they're still recruit. Tsumu's having a big fat crush on you too, SakuAtsu. Just ask him out. Kayumi blinked a couple of times, then put the brush away, removed one glove, and picked up his phone as if that would somehow help clear his confusion about what the fuck was going on right now. Was that Osamu? Kayumi asked, growing suspicious by the way Motoya sounded out of breath. Oh, yeah, Motoya panted. He's helping me. Exercising. Komori got cut off by a voice groaning. Was that Suna? Motoya, what the fuck are you doing? You know what? Komori gasped, cursed, then gulped audibly and came back to the speaker. Ask him out. It's like Samu said, he's totally into you. Another gasp. I should call you back later, Kyo, love you. Kayumi scrunched up his nose when Motoya hung up and threw his phone away as far as possible. He really didn't want to know what these three were doing. Just as he was about to start his 4th round, not the 5th yet. It wasn't stress cleaning because of Miya Atsumu, there was a knock at his door. Kayumi sighed, wondering if he should just play dead or act like a responsible adult. Everything screamed for the former, but his mind made him realize the longer he waited, the worse it would get, so he went to the door. It was probably Mian who would kick him out now. It was a shame about the team. Kayumi liked them in a way, but like this, he had at least the chance to transfer to the Adlers and be able to still play this season. When Qiumi opened the door, however, he didn't meet his captain's face, but golden eyes, light blonde hair, and a body that already made Qiumi feel weak again. Hey, Atsumu smiled, leaning against the door frame and looking at Qiumi in anticipation. Completely horrified, Qiumi couldn't think of anything else than spray him and shutting the door, crashing with his back against it and staring with his eyes wide open into his living room. His chest was heaving, his heart was racing. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Did he just slam the door in Miyu Atsumu's face? Did he just spray him? Qiumi squeezed his eyes shut and tried to take a deep breath. This had to be a bad joke, right? Oh, he is absolutely so 100% fucked. Admitting slamming the door in Atsumu's face wasn't exactly his best move, he slowly detached from the door, pulled off his mask, turned around, and opened it slowly. He peered through the gap and met a somewhat startled Atsumu, now chuckling and then looking at him with a raised eyebrow. Are we still not making this a thing? Qiumi huffed through his nose and let Atsumu inside. Sorry. His heart was about to burst out of his chest. Atsumu waved him off as he stepped inside. I washed your jacket, thanks again. Qiumi nodded, fucking blushing again. Are you here to tell me MSBY is kicking me out? Atsumu looked at him a little startled and then burst out laughing, making 𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅𝒊𝒕𔥬 pout. He didn't understand what was so funny about that. This was about his career after all. Atsumu cleared his throat. So. Hinata has probably never been as pale in his life as he was last night. Inunaki has become 2,000 yen richer, and Mian has threatened to break our necks if we don't settle this between us by tomorrow's practice. And I can't shake the feeling that he's been betting on us too. 5,000 yen if we get together, Qiumi confirmed. Atsumu laughed. I knew it. Qiumi gulped. So they're not kicking us out? They'd be stupid if they did, Omi-kun, Atsumu reassured him, handing him his tracksuit jacket. Qiumi frowned and stared down at Atsumu's offer, was about to grab his jacket when his hand brushed Atsumu's and made both himself and Atsumu blush deeply. His skin was soft and gentle, Qiumi couldn't bring himself to remove his fingertips from him. Atsumu coughed. Maybe we should treat our captain to something good for a change. Qiumi raised an eyebrow at that. Think he could use these 5,000 yen. Osamu said you have a big fat crush on me too, is that true? Atsumu frowned. When did you talk to Samu? I was actually calling Motoa, but your brother and Suna. Qiumi blushed even more, recalling their conversation. They were there too. They were doing more than just being there. Do I even wanna know? No, right double quotation mark. Hey. Atsumu frowned even more. What do you mean I'm having a big fat crush on you too? Qiumi gulped. I asked you first and you didn't answer yet. Atsumu shut him up with a kiss. A light one, an almost shy one, brushing their lips together in a way that felt more than right. It was sweet and gentle, addictive and satisfying all at once. Kissing Atsumu had always felt like the right answer to everything. Qiumi cupped Atsumu's cheek with his free hand, taking the lead and kissing him deeper. He was a little startled at first. Atsumu was downright pulling the breath out of him when it had always been the other way around. But it felt right, it always had. Qiumi had always had it bad for Atsumu. This was like a dream finally coming true. Atsumu drew back enough to murmur against Qiumi's lips. I meant it when I said I can show you how serious I wanna be with us. Think I fell for you ever since I saw you in our first year of youth camp. Qiumi smiled. You dyed your hair for me in second year when I tried to ignore you first. Tried, Omi, is the right wording. You've never been able to escape me. No, Qiumi smiled, then kissed him again. I've never been able to escape you. So? Atsumu breathed against his lips. Are we gonna let Mian win his bet? Qiumi stared into golden eyes that he had probably always loved. Stared into the blushing mess of a face he could never get enough from. Stared at plush lips he wanted to kiss all over again. Qiumi nodded, his lips curling into a smile. Let that man get his 5,000 yen. Atsumu's smile grew wider before he captured Qiumi's into another sweet and gentle kiss, pouring in all his love. Both of their hearts beat fast and strong, taking on a rhythm of their own, only known by each other. Atsumu chuckled as Qiumi's fingertip slid over his hand and tickled his skin, breaking the kiss and then staring at their joined hands only to realize it wasn't his lover's fingertips but a cockroach. Atsumu frowned, then widened his eyes and snapped his gaze up to Qiumi, who was ready to set this house on fire. Atsumu gulped. Oh. Atsumu was able to convince him not to do any property damage and Qiumi forced his boyfriend to help him clean the whole house at least 2 times. So maybe it was stress cleaning with and about Miyu Atsumu after all. And even though Atsumu whined and complained about it, he couldn't imagine anything better than spending his time with Qiumi, no matter what they were doing. Be it kissing him or getting rid of bugs. Both were fine.